I only do business with consultants as individuals. And I'm sorry to say, but since she left McKinsey, they're a great company. I haven't done business with them much, but because it's always really about the individual. And I really believe that, and that's the way it should be. So you're going to like what she does. She also, after McKinsey, she became the head of marketing and broader responsibilities for Discover Financial Services. Did an amazing job there, really helped transform the company. She's had a couple of positions here at Google. I think you're going to be impressed with what she has to say. Margo.
So good morning. It's always hard to follow the icon who started the entire retailing conference. It's really a pleasure to be here today, and I was really inspired last night by the talks by the students. As a mom of 3 children, 2 of whom are in college, I was really taken by the way they talked about the relationships they've built, the careers that they're excited to pursue. And so, Terry, you're really fulfilling on your vision of inspiring the next generation of retailers. So thanks for including me. As I thought about what to talk about today, because the whole topic of the conference is the future of retailing, and there's a question that I get often as a senior leader at Google, which is, what is the future of retailing? Have things hugely changed? And while Terry and I didn't coordinate at all on this talk, I think you'll see a lot of common themes in what I'll talk about today, and what we see in terms of where retail is going, and what we think really needs to be different to win in this future. So a lot of people think that shopping with this massive growth of online is going to fundamentally change. And they believe and keep challenging the norms. And you saw a video before that I think helped to lay out some of the things that I'm going to talk about at one level up today. So for me, I thought I'd just tell a bit of a personal story because I think it grounds what is really going on in retail. So when I was growing up, I grew up in Chicago. Anybody here from Chicago? Anybody know? Marshall Fields. You know, when I was a kid, right, we shopped at the stores in the neighborhood. Right? Everybody remember those days? You had those favorite stores that were in the neighborhoods that were near you. And then we loved Marshall Fields, which is now actually owned by Macy's and part of that acquisition strategy that what Macy's did for so many years. And at Marshall Fields, I still remember as a little kid, my mom getting these huge boxes. And they had this brand called 222. And you could get your washing powder, your dishwashing liquid, your toilet paper, paper towels. I mean, who imagined? The department stores pretty much sold everything. So we got our home goods from there, all delivered under one brand. We also got our house goods, clothing, anything you can possibly think of. And then as I was kind of a teenager, along came all these specialty stores, right? All of us grew up with the Gap, everybody had to have the khakis or that polo, right? Or those things that we all were iconic to our growing up experience. Or a lot of people started to fall in love with the Limited and Victoria's Secret. And then I ended up working in Europe for quite some time in the 90s. And everyone there was obsessed with these new category killer retailers, right? The Bed Bath & Beyonds that were sweeping up a whole category, or Home Depot, or Toys R Us. Those were the incredibly popular formats, and everybody wanted to copy those. And then right after that came along the Targets and the Walmarts, scaling and putting it all in one place and combining it with groceries. So I guess you're wondering, where is she going with this, right? She's telling all this history, but the point is that retail, every 5 to 7 years, has a big change. And what I challenge you to think about is, has shopping really changed, or is Amazon just the new Walmart of this generation? In fact, when I was a partner at McKinsey and Walmart was coming up, we did all these analyses. We called them gone to value. What categories were fundamentally going to go to value? Because it made more sense for the consumer, right? Because they were going there every week, and it was a relatively commoditized item just to pick it up when they were buying the groceries. And therefore, those items would go to value. How different is that from thinking about the categories on Amazon that have gone to digital? So in my view, what's old is new again. Now I'm looking for the clicker, which is not here. Okay, we'll improvise. See if this will work.
Tech support.
So have everything changed? I would say no. So let me talk a little bit more. As Terry shared, stores are the new black. The facts are very compelling for stores. In 2015, 93% of retail sales will still go through a store. In fact, consumers really love shopping in stores. And as Terry shared, it's not surprising that Warby Parker and Bonobos and all these great online retailers, including Amazon, are aggressively looking at opening stores. Because there is something about the touch and the feel and the experience that you get. And in my view, what's not changed in 20 years is the basic formula and obsession of any store, the relentless focus on winning the war for traffic and converting it. So let me share a few numbers that I think are focusing and help tell the story. Let's take the Super Bowl moment for stores, November and December. That's when you've got to make it happen. In 2010, there were 39 billion footsteps to stores. Going back to Terry's concept of the 5-year strategy, 5 years later, 18 billion in that same period. Now, there's no question that if you own all those malls and you put all that money in that real estate, you're asking yourself, wow, whoops, do I have the wrong strategy? I'm doing really well here between the clicker and the stage. So that's a huge drop, like 50% drop in traffic. Yet at the same time, let's look at sales. 641 billion to 737. So store traffic halved, but sales grew 15%. So what is that telling us about consumers? When consumers are coming to the store, they're far more purposeful than they've ever been. When they get there, they're ready to buy. Conversion rates are higher than they've ever been. So that's the good news. So what's happening? Did those 21 billion footsteps just go away? Well, I think everyone in this room is a shopper, like I am. And I don't think this is a society that has less interest in shopping. Those footsteps didn't go away. They just went online. So the web and mobile have delivered this technological nirvana for consumers. The ability to see anything you could possibly want to explore in seconds has never been so possible. And what's exciting is when you think about it, the quantity of shopping has gone up dramatically in terms of activity, but also in terms of the quality of engagement. There's so much more ability to be inspired, to share both pre and post-purchase. We have so many opportunities for shopping-related engagement that never existed before. And this is the massive shift that stretches far beyond the visitors to the many retail websites that we all know and love. Just at Google alone, we see 3 billion searches every single day. And it might be surprising for you to know that 20% of those are shopping related. So if you just do the math, that's 600 million visitors every day. That quickly starts to explain where those 21 billion footsteps have gone and many more. And it's so incredibly fast and easy. You have this device with you. It's with you 24/7. And it's so easy to find items and even find out if it's available at that store near you now. YouTube is also a huge destination for shopping. We see over 400 million views of shopping-related videos every single day. Personally, I love to go on and see the product reviews. I like to go on, if I buy a product, it actually shows me how to set it up. I hate reading directions. I also love to watch the latest runway shows, but I'm really busy. I travel a lot. And so I can just, at any point in time in the day, take a break or at night, and I can go watch all the runway shows of my favorite brands. My daughter, who's in college, she loves the style haul videos. I can't imagine that, but she is really interested in what other people are doing and how they make decisions and put it together. And she loves going on and watching these young women that look like her, finding things, taking them out, right, and trying them on and showing her how it all works together. So we have a huge opportunity to change how we think about shopping. And these are just a few examples. Think about places like Pinterest. If you think about community and shopping, Pinterest is really an exciting destination. It didn't even exist a few years ago, and now 2 million people every day are putting product pins about availability and information. And there's so many more, right? I could go on and on. There's House, right? There's Instagram. There's so many places as a consumer that you can shop. So that's where all those footsteps is gone. But let me show you 2 unforgettable numbers that I think will continue to shape the future of shopping. 73%, 90% of sales will still happen online. That's not going to change. Consumers love to go to stores, as Terry talked about. That's where the buying will happen predominantly. However, shopping, browsing, evaluating, qualifying, comparing, all those steps are moving online. 70% of all retail sales are already digitally influenced, and that number is growing every single year. This is a huge shift. Winning the war for traffic today, I got to tell you, that's 3. So if you're a Greek, you know that 3 times, the rest of this should go really easy now. So winning the war for traffic today is all about winning at digital influence before the store. So let me share a little video with you that I think brings to life what I'm talking about in terms of this fundamental shift in consumer behavior.
Grinding sound when you turn the key?
So as I shared before, smartphones are changing everything. It's this incredibly personal device that's with you 24/7. And if we embrace what it offers us to help re-engage consumers as a retail industry in incredibly magical ways that we never thought possible, there's unbelievable things that we can do. And the consumers expect us to do it. So the model for retailing has not changed. Physical stores will still continue to dominate transactions, but it's still the war for traffic and driving the best conversions, basket size, and loyalty. Those principles of retailing have not changed no matter what format evolution has come in front of us. But what has changed is how consumers are going to make their decisions about where they're going to go. The war for traffic is going to be won or lost on digital. If you win digital influence, you earn the right for all those purposeful visitors that are going to come to your store and buy. And this is a really big shift in the mindset of a retailer. The need to win before the store as much as you win in the store. So how do you win this new war for traffic? We see 3 incredibly successful strategies. The first one is about owning your tribe. Every retailer that I've ever worked with knew deeply, emotionally, who their customer was. And now we have the opportunity to engage with them in all those micro moments that matter to them before the store. The second piece is about committing to all line. There's no more online and offline. As Terry said, we have to provide a seamless experience and how consumers engage with us. And we also have to deliver surprise and delight. Retailers have always tried to do this. That's what the store experience has all been about. That magic when you get there and you have that interaction. But we do have so many more ways than we've ever had to do that with our customers. So let's talk about owning your tribe. I've had the opportunity to work with many incredibly great brands. Target, Macy's, Discover, Google. Every single one of these companies was really deeply passionate about who their customer was, how they live their lives, why they do what they do, how they engage with their product, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. What are those moments that cement that relationship, that makes you feel, right, that sense of loyalty, that almost it's so deep that if you go somewhere else, you almost feel guilty that you're leaving that company that you really trust. And we've done a lot of research as retailers for years and years. Terry and I did a lot of it together. And we focused most of it on the store. The marketing to the store, the in-store experience, the service levels, all those things were about the store. But now we have this incredible opportunity to know how that consumer thinks and all those questions that they're asking. Where they're going, what they look at, who inspires them, how they share that. And understanding that is so critical to winning with this consumer. And since Macy's really has been recognized as one of the leading retailers in shifting in this direction, I actually wanted to play a little video from his marketing team. And I'm glad you didn't play the same one.
Our core customer are women 25 to 54. They are our lifeblood, and we've spent a number of years building that relationship with them.
One thing we know about customer is they want what they want. So when they go online, or they're on their mobile device, or they come into our store, they want that blue sweater in a size medium. The probability of her trading out that blue that she loves is very slim. We developed years ago the ability to expose our in-store inventory on the website. We used to have 2 separate siloed budgets. We really now have one marketing budget, and we look at what's the best way to spend that. What's the best allocation? What's the best media mix? Whether it's digital, offline, how do they work together to deliver, yeah, of course, the most sales, but really that best customer experience.
So as Terry shared before, it's a big difference in thinking. How you think about allocating your marketing budgets, how you think about your stores, thinking about your stores not just as a physical place for consumers to go, but also a distribution hub. How you think about your assortments and the connectivity between those online and offline. The consumer wants what she wants. She's in charge. And we just have to be there in all the moments that matter to her. I also really like how Bed Bath & Beyond does things. As I mentioned, I've got 2 college students, and I just dropped the second one off at college this fall. And it's a really great experience that I get a checklist, right? Because I'm a busy mom, and when I dropped him off, I wanted to be able to just go to that Bed Bath & Beyond and have all those things, right, that he needed for the dorm, and it's really easy to forget stuff, right, that they might need. And I love this checklist. I could literally go in there and make sure I got everything that he needed, and then drop him off. And my daughter's about to graduate from college and start her first apartment, and she's been going on and looking at their recommendations of all the things that you need in your first apartment, and they do the same thing for a wedding, for a new baby. They're in step. And it doesn't matter whether you're on their app, their website, their store. They send you an email. They understand who you are, and they're showing you that they want to be in step with what you care about and what you're trying to do. And that's just incredibly helpful, because I use their app as much when I'm in the store as when I'm not in the store. So what does really owning your tribe mean? It's really about stepping back and asking yourself, am I just measuring footsteps to my store and transactions, or am I really thinking about, am I winning the war for traffic before the store? Do you actually have metrics that at a senior management level you're looking at to understand what your market share is before the store? And are you obsessed about understanding all those life moments? Are you using that focus group of the world every day to really understand what she or he cares about? Who inspires them? What places they want to go? And are you committing, when you're interacting with them in those spaces, are you doing that in a really authentic way? Are you responding to their questions? Or are you pushing product or the latest promotion? And it's really hard to do that because there's so many competing agendas. And I see that on many retailers' websites, that battle for how much content do I put there versus just show the product. And it's challenging. And if you think about maybe who that consumer is, where they are, and what they're trying to do, your ability to be relevant is transformed. So that's what we really mean about own your tribe. The next big shift is this committing to all line. I think consumers, as we all know, don't differentiate between online and offline anymore. In fact, if you do a survey of consumers today and you ask them how much time they spend online, they actually don't know how to answer the question. Because when you're carrying a smartphone with you 24/7, is that online? Or is online just when I'm at work and I'm on a website and I'm looking for things? Is it when I'm watching TV and maybe it's from my phone and I'm watching online? How do I think about that anymore? And I think because consumers don't think that way, I think as retailers we really have to change our thinking. There is no offline and online. We've got to commit to all line. And as Terry shared, a lot of retailers have thought a lot about this. I think there's many announcements about companies that are focused on omnichannel, right? Everyone's hired a head of omnichannel. But actually making that real every day is not easy to do. The structures, incentives, the culture, the processes really make it hard. It really gets in the way of truly taking a customer's perspective and being truly all line. But winning the war for traffic, you've got to commit. I was just thinking about a personal example I had. We are redoing our backyard in our house in Palo Alto, and I went online and I've been looking at a lot of different furniture options because we have a dining space, we have a living space, and I really wanted to see what were all the options, and I had a certain style preference, and it was difficult because places would have what I wanted, but then it didn't quite have the right sizing. But there was not a single site that offered me a place to upload maybe my plans for the house and make suggestions to me. And it was really time-consuming to sit down with a piece of paper and try to figure that out. And even when I finally found the items that I was looking for, and I hope is anyone here from Restoration Hardware? Because I love the company, but it was crazy. I finally found they launched this new spring collection like a month ago. And I was so excited. And I finally found exactly what I wanted, exactly how it would fit in the room. But I wanted to go to the store. As Terry said, people want to go to the store. They want to touch it, feel it. I wanted to check, the fabric samples, and I wanted to check the finish samples. And I got all the way to the store, and I went up to the sales associate, and I was so excited. And what happened? She had no idea about this new collection. In fact, I had to actually, I brought up the name, and she didn't even know what it was. She's like, oh, that's interesting. Let's go online and see if we can find it. That happens, right? How many of you have had an experience like that where things were not connected? And it kind of makes you feel as a consumer like they don't really respect your time, right? That you don't have the chips for that furniture, right? I couldn't complete the purchase, and part of me was like, I'm just going to go shop somewhere else, right? They don't respect my time. And then I thought, well, no, I really want those items. So I'm trying to hang in there with them, but it's challenging, right? We've really got to commit to online. So I think mobile is an incredibly great way to break down some of these barriers. It forces you to think about a truly seamless experience. And I think too many people are focusing on mobile e-commerce. Yes, in the holiday period last year, it was gangbusters, unbelievably important. And it's going to be, in a couple of years, $300 billion. But I think we've got to make sure that we think about mobile way beyond that. It's not about online commerce. It's a way to interact and help consumers across every step of that journey. And I think it's really possible for us to do things. One of my favorite examples is Home Depot. So I'll tell you a good customer story. So I'm a busy mom, and my son plays tennis, and I usually try to fit in those weekend errands, right? Take him to anybody ever been in this moment where you take your kid, you drop them off, you're like, okay, I've got an hour and 30 minutes to get this errand done, and then I got to pick him up. So time matters. So I was in the parking lot after I dropped him off, and I opened the app, and we needed a new thermostat, and of course I work for Google, so I wanted to buy a Nest, and I wanted to make sure that it was at the store before I went there. And I was able to look it up and know that it was in stock at the store that was near me. And then when I got to the store, that's a really big store, and you could waste a lot of time, right, in that time compression, looking around in the store, finding somebody to ask and getting there. And it showed me exactly where to go in the store to find the item. And when I got there were a couple of options. I wanted to make sure I had the latest and greatest. I jumped online. They had the ratings and reviews right there next to the product. It was a really great experience. So that's an online experience, right? I was using the same capability through that whole shopping experience. And that's also good business. Because consumers really like to self-serve. Over 50% of consumers would rather use their smartphone to assist them with shopping than talk to someone. And consumers that come into a store and are able to use their smartphone convert 30% more often than the ones that don't. So it's just good business to do that. Another great example is Walgreens. Anybody here shop at Walgreens? We all do, and I love that app. It's a really great app. Keeps track of all my prescriptions. If I go in the store and I'm over 40 and I still don't wear glasses, I know it's probably vanity, but I'm convinced that I don't need glasses, and sometimes that print is really small, and I love the fact that I can go up with my phone, take a picture of anything in that store, and it'll bring up all the information about the product, all the rating reviews, right then and there. That's a really great experience. And I can order things online and pick them up at store. I can pick the time that I want to go there, right? And for them, it's also working. 50% of apps users use it while in the store. And their mobile customers spend 6 times more than their retail-only counterparts. So that's really good business. So again, I think we've got to commit to online, not just make ahead of omnichannel, but really commit to making it easy for our customers to shop everywhere. And for us at Google, we call it mobile first, frankly, mobile only. If you had to say as a retailer, if your customer only had their mobile phone, could they actually do everything that they need to do in a meaningful and personalized way across their entire store experience, and then see where that might break down? Think about all the questions they want to ask and all the things they want to do, and ask if you're enabling them. And are you providing a distinctive and cohesive brand experience, no matter how or where they want to shop? Delivering surprise and delight. As I said earlier, I think retailers have always been about doing this, creating those magic moments in the store. I personally really love shopping at Barney's. I love the way they curate their merchandise. I always feel, whether I'm in the store or online, that I not only learn something great about what's hot in fashion, I feel confident about the purchase that I'm making because of the way they assort, and it's very visually appealing. But they also learn a lot. They see what I buy online, they see what I buy offline, and they tailor the product pages. When I'm on that website browsing, I really feel like it's personal, and it's not like a cheesy thing down the side. It's actually the whole page, and the way it's assorted is responsive to what I do. And again, it's really smart business for them. They sell a lot of fine jewelry, and one of the things that they've learned is that women always want to buy that fine jewelry in the store. They want to see it, touch it, try it on. It's a big ticket purchase. But they always look a lot online. And they found if they send a lot of lookbooks to those customers, and really help them explore and think about all those options, they feel a lot more confident to come to them and buy with them. They've also learned that content is king. People that spend time reading their content spend 40% more than the average shopper. Content has never been more powerful than in this digital age. But so many companies are not owning and creating a center for this content creation and making sure it's responsive to the questions she or he is asking along the journey. Because all this technology is really about making shopping magical. And of course, we need to have the consumer's permission. But when they give us their preferences, and when we know where they are and what they're doing, the opportunities to be such a dramatically better partner in that retail experience is incredible. At Google, we call this going from demand to suggest and assist. Think about it. If our search results were still just a bunch of blue links, you wouldn't really find that compelling. But now, for most of the questions that you ask, not only do we answer the question, but we put it in a knowledge box, and then we take all the information that we have and we think about all the related questions that you might ask. And it's all there in one place. And if you use Google Now, we actually, with your permission, will go in and understand your calendar and where you are, and we'll make suggestions about things that are really useful, that are near you. We'll send you your boarding pass if you're traveling. We'll remind you when your next meeting is. We'll tell you the weather where you are and the destination you're likely to go. Consumers expect us to be proactively helpful and understand who they are and where they are. Another great example is Sephora. They've really committed to understanding their customer. And as Terry said, you can learn a lot by watching what people do in a store. And they saw that a lot of consumers were going up and they were holding the makeup in one hand and their smartphone in the other, and they thought they were just price checking. But what they realized is that she was actually looking at ratings and reviews and trying to remember the last shade that she bought. And so what they did is they updated their app, and they put all that there for her, all in one place. And that's a really great experience. And if you think about it, they take it a step further because they're anticipating the problems that you might have with the product and trying to make sure it's a great experience. So I think the latest example that I think is terrific is the contouring. I don't know about any women in here. Anyone in here feel like you're an expert at contouring and highlighting? Like, forget it. Like, if it takes more than 5 minutes for me putting on makeup, I'm not going to do it. But this is a really awesome experience. This is a really hot trend. They anticipated that a lot of women won't have confidence to do that. So what do? You take a selfie, and they show you exactly where to put it. How great is that? Like a paint by numbers for your face. I mean, that's a great experience. And that's what I'm talking about. These are not big, fancy, crazy technological things. These are those simple, magic moments, right? Because as a consumer, you felt awesome about buying this product and that you're doing that hot new thing. And you also felt like this company was being surprisingly helpful. And by the way, if you bought the product and you didn't actually open this part of the app, they actually send you a reminder that it's there, just in case you need that extra help. So they're thinking about before, during, and after that purchase, how to give you a truly delightful experience. So for me, that's the epitome about what surprise and delight is all about. Are you truly using all that data? As Terry said, data is king. We have this ability to know all this data about who you are, where you are, what you're doing, always with permission. But are we committed to using that in ways that are helpful to that user and what their context is? Are we using it to really curate experiences and deliver those magic moments? Because you really remember those as a consumer, and that's what makes you want to keep coming back to that retailer. So in conclusion, I just want to go back where I started. I don't think shopping has changed. Not the fundamental tenets of shopping and retail. It's still about winning the war for traffic, conversions, basket size, and loyalty. But what has changed is if you want to win the war for traffic, You have to win before the store and take advantage of those magic moments after the store as well. And I shared 3 ways to start. Owning your tribe, committing to online, and to really delivering truly surprise and delight. That's what technology is about. But you're going to win or lose on digital. So take yourself back. If I think about it in many ways, this goes back to the origination, the foundation of retail. I think about it like an old movie, right? When you watch those old movies and you're on that main street and you have that sole proprietor and everybody lives in a neighborhood, and when somebody walks in that store, they know who you are personally, right? They show that they're interested in you. They talk to you. They engage with you. They don't care whether you're trying to buy that moment or not, and they probably know if you're saving up for a big purchase, or maybe you're not going to get your paycheck for a couple more weeks, and therefore you're just browsing on the way to that purchase, and they make you feel that you really have that meaningful relationship. And it makes you feel good about buying there and going back again and again. And in many ways, technology is allowing us to bring that magic back to retail. I feel like we lost some of that along the way, right? As we scaled and we got all these big boxes and all these assortments and everything else. You know, you go into most stores, and if you think about it as a consumer, it's overwhelming. The reason why consumers are getting so purposeful is typically you're only looking for a couple of things. So 90% of that store at that moment is not relevant to you. That's why they love to go online, because they can look for exactly what they're looking for. Or if they're just trying to get ideas, it's so much easier and faster to do it. So what I'm hopeful is, as I think about all the students that I met yesterday, there's a lot of retail leaders in this room who are trying to have a huge impact on where this goes. But this next generation, you are all digital natives. You grew up with this technology as part of your lives. You get why it's so important that it's seamless. You feel empowered by it. It's your reference point. Most of us leaders, we're all digital migrants. So as I think about what's possible, what I'm hoping for is that this next generation will embrace all these opportunities and really help us propel retailing to the next level. Thank you so much. Do we have time for questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much for your very insightful presentation. I had just one kind of two-part question. You noted the 600 million shopping-related searches that take place on Google.com each day. What's your estimate for the total number of shopping-related searches in the US per day? Not just on Google, but including direct to Amazon, direct to Macy's.com, et cetera. Is it 1.2, 1.8? What's your estimate? And then what is Google's share of is Google's share of that increasing or falling? And the same thing for the direct retailer, like the Macy's.com or Target.com, and the same thing for Amazon. Thank you.
So I don't have those exact numbers that you're suggesting, but if you look at the trend, it's all up and to the right. Whether you're talking about the traffic to shopping websites like Macy's and Amazon, right? You saw that in the statistics that Terry showed, right? The number of people going to those sites and the growth in the retail sales is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You can go to ComScore and you can get a lot of that data. And at Google, we see those searches rising. And what's interesting is they get more and more complex, right? You used to just go and look for a place or a store, but now you can actually look for and browse items. You can understand a truly hot trend. You can look at a lot of things that are near you, right? We see with the growth in mobile an explosion in the questions people have about what's near me now. Right, I have an idea, I want to do this now, and can I do this right now? Right? And because people are very time-pressed, they really find that incredibly valuable. And in many ways, we're partnering with the retail industry to help them, because they'll help us surface that that product is available and make it super easy for them to go right to that store and get it. Other questions?
Yeah. Pleasant good morning. Rich Yonkers from 1010 Data. Truly intriguing and purely relevant overview. Thank you so much. My main question goes to the 93% of brick and mortar sales into the future, and that 93% number, which seems to be a little divergent to some other views. Could you talk a little bit about that and where that number came from?
So we took that from the data that was publicly available in November and December, just kind of taking the Super Bowl moment for shopping. You can look at that data in lots of different ways, but I don't think very many people would dispute that 90% of retail sales are still in stores today. And the number isn't budging. I think if you would have looked at the hype, as Terry said 5 years ago, about how this might shift, I think you would have expected a much more dramatic move away from that. And I think consumers are continuing to say, and we saw this at Google, the minute we actually had the ability to show the inventory and the products that were available with Google Shopping, people actually really love to pick the retailers that have stores and are near them. And so people predominantly would prefer to go into the store, but in the first wave of the web, that information often wasn't available. And so now that it is, I think consumers are really increasingly voting with their feet to want to go and get something. They love instant gratification. They love the touch and feel. So that's the data, and I'm happy to share it with you if it's helpful.
Thank you.
Hi, Joe Carla. I'm from Eller Executive Education from the Eller College of Management. Both you and Terry hinted at something that I think is really poignant as a moment in this growth, which is the fact that leaders need to adapt to a new world. And you talked about digital migrants and the role that senior executives need to have in leading this transition. I'm curious as to what you think are the leadership gaps that exist in these digital migrants, these executives that are supposed to lead us to this new world. Where is it that they're struggling with? Where is it that they're getting stuck?
So as someone who spends a lot of time with the executive teams of retailers, frankly, across the globe, it's interesting. I think a lot of it's you grew up, right, with a certain way of doing things, and that's where your reference points and confidence and assumptions come from. And when you have such a huge paradigm shift as this is, you just don't have those reference points instinctively. So people, right, stick with the pattern recognizing that they know, right? And I think this is true in how people are interacting with digital, whether it's retailers or consumer goods players or other people, right? This is a whole new way of thinking about your business. If you were to take that leap that I was suggesting, which is start on mobile and think about that whole experience, right? A simple question I always ask senior executives is, what do you look at in your senior management meetings? If winning before the store is as important as in the store, what are your management dashboards? Do they show that? And it's true for everybody, right? Banking, retail, whatever it is, the number of interactions that you're going to have with consumers vastly exceeds on the web what will ever happen in your stores forever, right? This is not going to change and go backwards. It's only going to go bigger. But most people don't look at that every day in a structured way that enables them to build these new reflexive muscles. There are often people that don't use the web as much themselves. I'm amazed how many senior people don't look at YouTube videos, even though their customers do, right? And millions and millions and millions. They are always surprised to know that the top YouTube stars are actually as or more popular than TV shows. In fact, one of the young women bloggers on YouTube gets way more weekly visitors than Project Runway. But their reflection is always to go back to the mediums that they're familiar with. And so I just think a lot of this is incumbent on this next generation and our marketing and digital teams to bring those insights and that data to the fore, because it's really amazing when you can look every single day and understand the questions that people are asking in your category. You don't have to wait for a market research project. You can actually just go and look at it. And I think as we train people in that next generation and retrain our own executives, how do we bring that sense of recency and iteration? I also think there's a fundamental thinking, as I even go back in my own career in McKinsey, where people really think about a lot of process engineering, and they want to really think about, because I have a lot of stores, I got to make sure that this works perfectly, so they try to create this perfect process. And the problem with digital is it's changing all the time. So I reorganize my team probably every 6 to 9 months. So Terry, your team gets a buy if they only get it once a year. because the business moves that fast. Consumers are changing that fast, and it's really hard to predict exactly what they're going to use. So how you think about how to launch, test, and iterate, and be able to have that nimbleness in the way you structure new projects and initiatives. And also in a lot of companies, people, the minute something doesn't work, they just want to say, oh, that was a failure, right? They don't look at Google. We fail all the time, like constantly. But we always say, is there a nugget in there that's of truth? And how do we take that nugget and build? So we call it fall forward, right? Are you leaning into the future, or are you leaning into the past? Are you leaning into the future with the data that you look at? Are you leaning into the future with the way you think about your programs and projects and the pace of iteration? Or are you always looking for a reason to justify why the past is okay?
Hello? Hi, my name is Mark. I'm from Winston Retail, over to your left.
Sorry.
Way left over here, in front of the screen. Hi. So my question is, in this digitally enhanced omni-channel environment, the transaction is still being completed in store most of the time. So how does the sales associate role evolve and change? Because in your restoration hardware example, all that pre-work fell apart at that transaction. So how does that role need to evolve in the future?
I think that's one of our biggest challenges. A couple of years ago, I was talking with one of the big box retailers, and we were having this exact debate. And I said, look, your sales associates are checking, right? When they come to the store, they were putting their smartphone or in their locker, and then they're walking out on the floor and they're bare, right? And that customer is walking in with way more knowledge and way more technology than that sales associate. It's not physically possible for someone to be able to have all that knowledge in their head. You cannot do enough training. So how you think about training and the role of your in-store staff has to evolve. And the great news is that this can actually be incredibly empowering to them. If you have Wi-Fi in the store, if they have technology in their hands, their ability to do things right alongside that customer and be in step, and they need to have spent time on the website. How many in-store training programs do you have, if you're running a retail organization in this room, do you make people go on your website and mystery shop like the customer, take all the key occasions that your customers use to shop in your store, and try it? And think about the information that they're going to come armed on. Typically, my experience is that those are very separate things, right? The whole in-store training program is very separate. And that doesn't make sense. When I say commit to all line, you got to commit to all line. Committing to all line means that your store associates are as confident about the website and what's available as what's in that store. They're also, you're starting to think about, as you said before, what does service really mean in the store? If the consumer can be empowered, sometimes I think sales associates can feel like that could be taking away something from them, rather than seeing, oh my gosh, what an amazing experience. Because even if it's not available in the store, I can give them options. I can have it for you tomorrow. I can send it to you. We can drop it off. Right? You can do so many more things that we didn't think were possible. You can also offer assortment and choices and sizes and many things that you can't today always in the store. And so, but I think rethinking that entire process about the people that you hire, the way you train them, the way you empower them, the way you help them understand what service means in this context, I think is super important.
Hi. I'm Corey Capasso with Nomi. So one thing that hasn't been mentioned yet is the roles that malls will play in the future of retail. I'm a little biased. Right? When I think of Macy's, I think of the Herald Square location, which is not necessarily represented involved in Macy's. If I think of shopping center, I think of a higher-end shopping center, like maybe in Sanford Center. But going across the country, there's regional retail centers, and then you have sort of the mega super centers. And what role do you think the malls have to play in that, and how do you think that might have to change?
So I'll answer the question with a little story. I think in general, there's a lot of people that would argue that the US is a bit overstored. And I'll kind of put it in perspective because I work globally. So when I was living in Europe and I came back to the US in the mid-90s, it was astonishing to me how differently people in the US thought about adding stores. Because land is so expensive in Europe. I'll just put this in perspective, and I think this will help make sense out of all this. For just the cost of the land in Europe, you could buy the land, build the store, and tear it down in the US. So one of the reasons why some of these formats, both regulatory and cost, slow down, right, the growth of some of these formats. Whereas in the US, right, it was so easy to get land, right? And because you were going to these, right, sites that were often not right next to the main traffic centers, you could get that at a fairly low cost. So I do think that there is a natural sorting process that needs to happen in the store base because we overstored. If you look at stores per capita, square footage per capita, right, Terry, I'm sure could stand up and share the same thing. And even if I think about retail, if you look at most of these retailers, when I was a partner at McKinsey over 10 years ago, if you did the analysis for any store, and everyone here I'm sure will agree with this, you make most of your money in the top 40% of your doors, almost all of it. And the bottom 60 often tends to be a challenge. And I think the mindset was that's the only way to get distribution for the brand and get more sales. But in the web-enhanced environment, your ability to think differently about where you put those stores and how you think about that is really transformed. And so I do think we'll see a natural, right, those D malls, right, if you think about ABCD malls, I think the D malls will be challenged, right, because they were marginally economic from the beginning. But I think malls in general are still attractive as long as they think about how to reinvent themselves. And you see the best mall companies are doing that, right? They really think about the entertainment that's there, the food options, and all the different reasons that you want to go to a mall, not just shopping, because those visits are so much more purposeful that if you want to make the economics of the box work, you have to think about many more things that you can offer that consumer. So sure. I think that the future is still bright, especially for the top tier malls. I was just told that we're out of time for questions. I'll be around if you have more questions, and thank you again for your time and attention.